Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Metal Show.
Here we go.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Yes. Once again at the end of another week. Pushing into the week that we call Thanksgiving week. Here in the United States of America, where we're supposed to be celebrating what we're thankful for. And I suppose, from a lot of angles, depending on your point of view, there's a lot the United States has to be thankful for. But we're not completely broke yet. We still are an amazing superpower on the globe. But there just doesn't seem to be a lot of hope left in people. Honestly. Doesn't seem to be a lot of get up and go where the country used to have it. I mean, it's not even that the get up and go got up and went. It seems like almost it's been taken away. Like, if your get up and go used to mean you sat forward, you shifted your weight, and you stood up, and you started walking. Now, try and do that when you've been placed in a wheelchair and your mobility has been removed. I mean, that's kind of how I equate what seems to be happening many times in this country from a governmental standpoint. Freedom and the ideals that we espouse in this great country of ours don't come easy. They don't come cheap. And they're not things that you can let stand by idly on your haunches and expect to take them for granted. Because they're not. The moment an opportunity comes along for somebody to infringe upon or take away your freedom in this country, it'll happen. Freedom is something that needs to be defended. Freedom is something that needs to be championed. Freedom is something that needs to be defined and asserted. If you don't have freedom in this country, what do you have in this country? I mean, everything else that we value in this country is based upon freedom. It doesn't matter if you're talking about rights. It doesn't matter if you're talking about business. It doesn't matter if you're talking about... really, no matter what you talk about in this country, it all goes away without freedom underneath. And it seems like many times people seem to forget that ideal. The freedom isn't something that just sits there every day for you to take advantage of. It's something you have to coddle. It's like water in cupped hands. It wants to find a way out. It's not going to just sit there naturally. Natural forces are going to make it go away unless you find a way to defend it. And so, it's with some happiness that I see stories in the news regarding drug law reform and decide that there is some saving grace in the United States. Because I'll tell you what, I've never seen in this country, honestly, you can talk about taxes, I think except the only thing, maybe terrorism. Terrorism might be the only thing that I think, trumps freedom. And it shouldn't be that way. Terrorism should not trump your freedom. And unless you stand around and defend your freedom, people are going to try and take it, especially when it comes to civil policy amongst our civilians here through the criminal justice code enforced upon us by the police. Here's just a quick example, and this isn't something that I planned on, talking about during the show, but here's just a quick example of what I mean. And this is a controversial issue. What I'm about to talk about. It's controversial for sure. My sister would wring my neck that I'm reading this article. She would have my nads on a platter. She's a neonatal nurse. And she sees all kinds of problems with drug-addicted babies in Flint, Michigan, where there seems to be an abundance of poor people and people who have become drug-addicted. And this addiction seems to turn up in the hospital in the form of drug-addicted babies with issues, premature babies. She works in the neonatal intensive care unit. If she knew I was about to read this story to you, she would somehow find a way to make me pay for it. But I'm going to read it nonetheless. This story reported by Forbes at Forbes.com. Jacob Sullum is the contributor. Since 1985, cigarette packages sold in the United States have carried 4 rotating warnings from the Surgeon General, including this one. Smoking by pregnant women may result in fetal injury, premature birth, and low birth weight. Since 1989, the labels of alcoholic beverages have included this government-mandated warning. According to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects. This week, the American Medical Association... I'm going to light a cigarette here. I have on my smoking jacket. The American Medical Association proposed a similar label for cannabis products. Marijuana use during pregnancy and breastfeeding poses potential harms. The proposed warning represents a concession to political reality by the AMA, which opposes marijuana legalization, but seems to recognize that pot prohibition is inexorably crumbling. The AMA's wording is notably milder than the warnings for tobacco and alcohol. I'll repeat. Is that? You'd think this was a damn cigar. The problem with this cigarette... Oh, why is it doing that? One last little puff of gas from that lighter. That bic is going in the round file. Goodbye. I had the edge of that cigarette lit. It had the tiniest of sparks on the edge of the paper. I could have used my massive suction power to ignite that cherry again. It would have wasted your time. The proposed warning represents a concession to political reality by the AMA, which opposes marijuana legalization but seems to recognize that pot prohibition is inexorably crumbling. The AMA's wording is notably milder than the warnings for tobacco and alcohol, appropriately so, since the evidence that cannabis consumption during pregnancy can harm the fetus is less clear than the evidence that smoking and heavy drinking can. In any case, providing information about marijuana's hazards is surely preferable to the punitive moralism of the war on drugs. The latter approach still prevails in most of the country, as illustrated by what happened to Holly Sanford and her baby girl, Nova. After Sanford gave birth at Cleveland's Fairview Hospital on September 26th, Nova was snatched away from her because the newborn's first stool tested positive for a marijuana metabolite. Against the recommendations of county social workers, who are usually the villains in stories like this, Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court Magistrate Eleanor Hilo decided the drug test result by itself justified separating Nova from her parents. They were not reunited until last week after a judge overruled Hilo. Sanford used cannabis tea to treat morning sickness and severe sciatic nerve pain while she was pregnant with Nova, and as she had when she was pregnant with Nova's brother Logan, who is now almost 2. Her research convinced her that marijuana was a safer choice than the painkillers she had been prescribed, and she may be right about that. The Food and Drug Administration puts opioids, such as hydrocodone and oxycodone, in Category C, meaning animal reproduction studies have shown an adverse effect on the fetus, and there are no adequate and well-controlled studies in humans. Although potential benefits may warrant use of the drug in pregnant women despite potential risks. The evidence concerning marijuana's effect on fetuses is likewise mixed and incomplete. The National Institute on Drug Abuse, whose diatribe is highlighting the hazards of illegal intoxicants, says research in rats suggests that exposure to even low concentrations of THC late in pregnancy could have profound and long-lasting consequences for both brain and behavior of offspring. It adds that human studies have shown that some babies born to women who used marijuana during their pregnancies responded differently to visual stimuli, tremble more, and have a high-pitched cry, which could indicate problems with neurological development. NIDA also notes, no, that's the National Institute on Drug Abuse, note the study and its origin. They're studying drug abuse, they're not studying drug use. They're not trying to see the benefits of the use of drugs. They're looking at the harmful effects from drug abuse. It's right there in the name. Notes that children prenatally exposed to marijuana are more likely to show gaps in problem-solving skills, memory, and the ability to remain attentive. But it admits that more research is needed to disentangle marijuana's specific effects from other environmental factors, including maternal nutrition, exposure to nurturing or neglect, and use of other substances by mothers. That's a crucial concession, because animal studies can be carefully controlled to exclude alternative explanations for a given outcome. Their results are not necessarily relevant to humans. By contrast, are observational rather than experimental, since it would be unethical to randomly assign one group of pregnant women to use marijuana and another to abstain from it. So when a study finds, for example, that children of women who consume cannabis during pregnancy tend to be more impulsive, you got to question it, don't you?
You're getting the full melt.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
It's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Door Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
Say welcome back to the PetPain.com studios. where you can hear the Full Melt program every day, Monday through Friday, from 7 until 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Really simple to subscribe to us also on iTunes. Find the iTunes link at the top of the FullMelt.com's webpage. Click and subscribe. It's just that simple. Look, there's all kinds of stuff going on here in the fall. It seems like the fall tends to bring a lot of activity in the medical marijuana realm and in the cannabis realm in general. I think when you talk about fall and you talk about what people are interested in doing this time of the year, it's a family time of the year. You know, it's a Christian time of the year, all things that hearken Americans around the fire. Traditionally. But some people can't always afford the trimmings of Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we've always been very charitable in this country as individuals, especially at that time of the year. Because it doesn't matter if you're wealthy or if you're poor financially. It doesn't. What matters and what's at the heart of these traditions is togetherness, being with family and friends, sharing joy and camaraderie, being thankful for what you have and what's to come. Being thankful for what you have and what's to come. And some people don't have. So it's not fair for them to be exposed to this labyrinth of, mazes that you have to negotiate during the holiday season when you have no resources. When everything that's aimed at you commercially is about Thanksgiving dinner and Black Friday and Black Thursday and Brown Monday and whatever the hell they got going on now. I mean, honestly, my parents would have laughed at you when I was a kid if they told you that we had to interrupt Thanksgiving dinner so that they could get down to the big box store to take advantage of the $100, $2,000 discount. It's a $2,000 item, but you can get it for $100 the first 3 people in the door. You have to break away from your family, and you must come and get in line for Christmas. So when you're poor and you don't have anything, or you've been left out, or you've been disenfranchised, say you're coming back from being a stealthy warrior for your country, defending her freedom. You come back, and at this time of the year, you're wandering the streets homeless and jobless and hungry. And so many of us in the marijuana community specifically, and especially in the medical marijuana field, where we see so many people already stricken with illness, let alone poverty. Many times they come hand in hand. They're inseparable. There is a nexus between them. So it pains me terribly when I see people with philanthropic opportunity and good spirit and goodwill in hand at holiday season have their philanthropy turned away because of association, because of prejudice, because of hatred. This article is from the Oregonian at OregonLive.com. State rejects Thanksgiving Day baskets over marijuana connection. Earlier this month, a group of women in Oregon's marijuana industry came up with a plan to donate baskets complete with turkeys and the fixings for a Thanksgiving Day meal for 20 needy families in Eugene. The group, Women Leaders in Cannabis, turned to the Oregon Department of Human Services, hoping that the agency would get the baskets to the families that needed them. At first, an agency employee based in the Eugene office welcomed the gift, said Lindsay Jacobson, a founder of the group. But a few days later, the state reversed course, saying staff was spending too much time making arrangements for the gift. The real reason, as Jacobson suspected, was the gift's connection to cannabis. It was related to the fact that it was a marijuana-related business and the discomfort by the DHS office that it would give the appearance of some kind of endorsement, said Gene Evans, a department spokesman. Evans said the agency has sought advice from the Oregon Department of Administrative Services on how to respond to offers from cannabis-related enterprises, given that Oregon is in a transition phase when it comes to the drug. He said many families the agency deals with are severely affected by drug and alcohol abuse. As a result, the agency would also turn away donations sponsored by Jack Daniels or Absolute Vodka. He added that the state referred Jacobson's group to other organizations that might welcome the offer. Still, Jacobson said the rejection hurt. It just weighed on the soul a little bit, she said. Jacobson's group is not alone in getting pushback when it comes to charity. Matt Price, who owns a chain of 3 dispensaries called Cannabliss, said he tried to donate cash to 2 groups, a special needs camp and a cancer fundraiser, only to be rejected due to his marijuana connections. I understand that not everybody is accepting of what we do for a living, said Price, but I feel like denying charitable help and not allowing somebody to help somebody else isn't a good way to go about things. It's not like we're passing out cannabis to somebody, said Price. We're just trying to help our local community. Not everyone has a problem accepting gifts from the cannabis industry. During the holidays last year, Price and another marijuana business owner filled a flatbed truck and a car with $4,000 worth of toys for kids at Dornbecker Children's Hospital. The hospital happily accepted the gifts, said Price. We told them we did for a living. They were fine, he said. They were really happy we contributed. They were really kind and treated us with a lot of respect, and we're thankful that somebody went and did something like this. Cannabis industry representatives said making donations, volunteering time, and raising money for organizations are part of being responsible businesses. I mean, don't you wish that, you'd hear this more from our corporate friends? From our big box retailers? I mean, you do get some of it. It's so small. Cannabis industry representatives said making donations, volunteering time, and raising money for organizations are part of being responsible businesses. Leah Maurer, a marijuana activist in Portland, said such efforts are part of the industry's efforts to normalize marijuana in everyday life. We are professional. We are stand-up citizens, she said. We want to help. Randy Philbrick, who directs the Oregon chapter of Smart Approaches to Marijuana, a national group opposed to marijuana legalization, sees charitable donations by cannabis groups as a push for mainstream acceptance. It looks like they're trying to buy their way into the community, to try and buy acceptance, he said. Jacobson, who's been turned away from helping with a coat drive and volunteering at a school-based garden in Eugene, said after some research, she found a local group willing to accept the food baskets. The group works with families of autistic children. On Sunday, the group will meet to assemble the baskets, which will come with tablecloths and recipes. The food will be delivered to families on Monday and Tuesday. Finally, we have found a company that is able and willing and happy to have us working with them, Jacobson said. It's a relief. And I find the entire story both heartwarming and lecherous. I mean, it is just terrible that anybody claiming to want to be a public service organization or a nonprofit group would turn away the very thing that they desire most, assistance in their mission statement. I mean, that's what you do. You raise money as a nonprofit group to help charity organizations, to help a charitable cause for good reason. You believe in it. You stand up in it. You stand behind it. Public and private partnerships. I mean, this is what it's all about. But the moment you stand up and you say, no, not that money, you make it sound like, you took this from a terrorist. You make it sound as if the money was poisonous or toxic or caused bad things to happen, when indeed the opposite is true. So I find it appalling that any organization that calls themselves charitable would turn away the goodwill and fortune of any, especially legitimate, business. Nonsense, I say. I mean, this is another facepalm moment. There has to be a facepalm moment sound effect. It just has to be developed. We're almost out of time in this segment. It just goes by so quickly. So there's my bit of Thanksgiving to you. I think this story's a little bit funny. So we might have a couple stories that I can squeeze in here before the break pops up. In Washington, D.C., according to the Washington Post, it smells like marijuana and residents just really don't care. This at thewashingtonpost.com. The smell near the Columbia Heights metro station Wednesday night was unmistakable. A lit joint in hand, Tony Lee stood outside a residence talking with friends as the typical evening bustle passed them by, no one paying the group of men any special attention. The community I'm in, everyone engages in smoking, said Lee, a 34-year-old district resident who runs his own small construction firm. Plus, he said, if he's not smoking, he smells the remnants of other people getting high throughout the city on a daily basis anyway. This cavalier attitude, as he says, I've grown accustomed to it, towards marijuana and the distinctive waft that accompanies it, seems to be the new norm in D.C. in the years since the city voted to legalize possession of small amounts of pot. I mean, really. No, stop it. Cut it out. Shut up. He actually accidentally hit a button on the stupid phone, just toggling up. According to a new Washington Post poll, 57% of district residents say they smell marijuana at least once a month. And of these residents, 45% say the once illicit scent doesn't bother them at all. And 17% say it doesn't bother them too much. Fewer than 4 in 10 respondents say they are irked, or at least a little bit irked by some of the smell. This prevalent and very public perfume may be a new feature of the nation's capital, but these statistics are just building on residents' long support of laxer marijuana laws. In November of 2014, 70% of district's residents voted in favor of Initiative 71. It was a ballot initiative that legalized the growing and possession of marijuana. Initiative 71 went into effect February, and since then, support for the law hasn't lost any steam. 69% of residents still support the law, according to the poll. The numbers most notably break down along generational lines. Only 41% of residents, 65 and older, support marijuana legalization, but the number jumps to 64% among 40 to 64-year-olds and 82% among those younger than 40. There was also a gap between the rate at which black and white residents supported the new law. The poll found that 79% of white people were still in favor of the law and 60% of black people were in favor of it. But while lagging behind white residents, support among black D.C. residents has grown rapidly in recent years. In 2010, a Post poll found that just 37% were in favor of legalization. This persistent support for the law is similar to what played out in Colorado, where 55% of voters legalized marijuana in 2012. Since then, the support for the law has remained steady there, according to a Quinnipiac University poll, or a number of them. It continues to be a hot-button issue for the under 40 voter group, and any politician that discounts the influence of this generation in the future won't be in politics very long, said Adam Ettinger, the activist who helped lead the political fight to pass Initiative 71 and owns a marijuana paraphernalia store in Adams Morgan. No one in the local government can take credit for this issue. The only reason why this moved is because the people spoke out. Support is relatively even across all the wards, but in wards 1, 7, and 8, residents report smelling marijuana more often. I wonder how that happens. In Ward 1... Oh, shut up. In Ward 1, including U Street, Northwest, Adams, Morgan, and parts of Columbia Heights, a whopping 70% of residents say they smell it once a month or more. That dips to 62% in Wards 7 and 8, but the frequency stands out east of the river. 32% say they smell marijuana every day. That compares to Wards 2 and 3, where only 8% smell weed daily. People aren't as discreet as they were before it was legal, said Wyan Smith, a 21-year-old who says he smokes on a regular basis in his Ward 8 Congress Heights apartment and smells marijuana smoke from others in his neighborhood just as frequently. Smoking in a private home in D.C. is legal under Initiative 71. The law says people can possess up to 2 ounces of marijuana, grow plants in their homes, and consume it in private, non-commercial places. When activists pushed for marijuana to be the first decriminalized in July of 2014, then later legalized, they framed it as a civil rights issue, citing statistics showing that 9 out of 10 people arrested in the district between 2000 and 2010 were black, even though blacks and whites use marijuana at similar rates. In the first year since the laws have been in effect, arrests have predictably plummeted. In 2013, before marijuana was decriminalized or legalized, the police in D.C. arresting 1,215 people for pot possession. So far this year, though, all D.C.-based police agencies, including federal agencies, have arrested only 7 people. You see the change. 1,215 down to 7, according to statistics from the Metro Police Department. I don't find the smells super offensive, said Lena Amick, a 24-year-old Columbia Heights resident who says she doesn't smoke but voted in favor of Initiative 71 because of the unequal arrest rates. People can choose to do what they want to do. Possession of marijuana is legal, but selling it is still prohibited under the law because D.C. is not a state. Congress has the power to meddle with the city's laws. Republican members of Congress tried to prevent Initiative 71 from even becoming law, but ultimately they just blocked the city's ability to pass laws regulating sales of the drug. I didn't vote to legalize marijuana because they didn't have all the ducks in a row. You have street vendors still. You're still promoting illegal sales, said John, 64, a retired electrician who didn't want to provide his last name because of the sensitivity of the issue. He and his wife have lived in Ward 5's Bloomingdale neighborhood and still will be marijuana opponents as long as they shall live.
You're getting the full melt.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions. Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
At book club, they were asking me what you're doing now, Janice.
Blogging. Your blog is just pictures of you in a mirror.
It's called a fashion blog, Todd. Well, I've been helping people save money with Progressive's discounts. Flo, can you get Janice a job?
You should have stuck to softball. I was so much better at softball than Jan is dead.
Where's your wife, Todd?
Vacation.
Discounts like homeowners, multi-policy. I got a discount on this ham.
I've got the meat sweats. It's good ham, Diane.
Paperless discounts. Give it a rest, Flo.
Yeah, Flo, give it a rest.
We ask people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be down times.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pets.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
right, so we're not going to be able to do a Butters update today. Probably not going to be able to do a Butters update again until after the season of hunting ends out in western Michigan. In lieu of that, I'll give you a story. And, I don't know why I'm doing it at this point in time, but I have to throw it in because it's hilarious is what it is. This is from this has nothing to do with marijuana file. I shall read it to you now. This is from the Huffington Post at huffpost.com. And I'm not joking. This is not one of those sites that's what you call a parody site or parody's not the word. A satire site. Satire is supposed to be a form of comedy, really. I think when those satire sites outright just make shit up and it's not funny, it's hard to call it satire. But then again, that's the nuance of comedy, isn't it? What's funny to you may not be funny to me. It's all in the interpretation. It's all in the relativity. You have to be able to relate to it. Relate to this. Fuck that bitch. Goes to extreme lengths to prove that his name is real. I'll spell it for you. PHUCDATBICH. Fuck that bitch. He's a Vietnamese-Australian man that has taken extreme measures to prove to the world that his name is real. The 23-year-old tired of people not believing him when he introduced himself and recently had to prove his identity when he was blocked from using Facebook under their rules against using fake names. Now, culturally speaking, it's also amusing. But culturally speaking, it would be offensive to tell a man that his name is fake. That's called culturally insensitive. Fuck that bitch. I find it highly irritating the fact that nobody seems to believe me when I say that my full legal name is how you see it. Fuck that, wrote in a Facebook post. I've been accused of using a false and misleading name, of which I find very offensive. Is it because I'm Asian? Is it? And, he shows his passport. It's from Australia. I mean, his first name is Buck. His middle name is Dat, and his last name is listed as Bish. Fuck that Bish. If you read it in English, the name sounds particularly rude. Although in Vietnamese, the name is pronounced Phuc Duc Bic. Phuc Duc Bic. Fuck that bitch. All right, so much from the this has nothing to do with marijuana file. Every once in a while, I got to reach into that file because it's just hilarious. This would be deemed as a good deed. And by the way, I'm going to make an announcement at the end of this program. I'll just give you the heads up to that now. Major announcement coming at the end of this program. It will be earth-shattering. I promise you it will be no less than epic. Stand by for that coming up at about 5 minutes to the hour. The Alaska Marijuana Control Board live blog says the board removes THC limit for marijuana concentrates. A broker cultivation license was removed from proposed regulations. Under a previous draft version of the regulations, a license would have allowed for brokers to procure marijuana from small growers, then sell the marijuana to retailers. The license was seen as a way to help small black market growers transition to the legal market. What a great idea. See, now I got this problem again. I so lucked out. The tiniest puff of butane left in that lighter. And I already threw the other lighter out. You heard me do that. I'm going to have to do it with this one, too. Board member Peter Malarick wrote that the board doesn't have the power to create a new license type, as a broker isn't truly a marijuana cultivator. The amendment passing 4-1 with Lauren Jones dissenting. Marijuana can be packaged in such a way now, this is updated as of 2 o'clock today, as to allow consumers to see the product before they purchase it in retail store, the board voted Friday. A previous version of the regulations had specified that marijuana must be packaged in opaque plastic. Now they're saying that you can see it before they purchase it in a retail store. So it's 180 degrees the other direction. Board Chair Bruce Schulte said allowing for clear packaging was needed for the industry as the appearance of marijuana is important to consumers. When marijuana leaves the store, however, it must be in opaque, child-resistant, resealable packaging. The amendment passed 3-2. They voted to remove an explicit ban on marijuana social clubs, but said they were still considered illegal under Alaska law. The Marijuana Control Board voted 3-2 to allow for on-site consumption of marijuana at retail stores across the state. The change allows for people to buy marijuana products at a retail store and then consume them in a designated area on the premises, but the rule would not supersede local laws. If the rule is okayed by the state lawyers and the lieutenant governor, Alaska would be the first state that supports and regulates marijuana consumption in an area outside of a person's home or other private space. Audience members applauded after the vote. The board voted also 3-2 in favor of allowing non-cannabis products to be sold at marijuana retail stores, including T-shirts and other merchandise. Edible products like tobacco, cigarettes, and food cannot be sold in marijuana businesses under the amendment. The board voted to remove the cap on THC limits for marijuana concentrates. A prior draft version had capped THC at 76%, a calculation derived from the limit placed on spirits. What a stupid thing. Board member Bruce Schulte argued that the cap was taking the idea of regulating marijuana like alcohol too literally. He is absolutely correct. So a little bit of adjustment. The big headline there that the board had voted Oh, wait a minute. So here's the other thing that came out of this. Marijuana businesses still need to be 500 feet from churches under Alaska law. An amendment that would have lowered the distance to 200 feet was voted down by the board. A 500-foot separation between marijuana businesses and schools, youth centers, and correctional facilities and churches remains on the books. The proposed amendment was based on geographic limitations of smaller communities where a 500-foot radius from churches would be effectively barring all marijuana businesses from their community, including testing facilities or cultivation centers, said the board's chair. Board member Peter Malarnik voted against the amendment, saying that many churches have youth programs, and to exclude them from the 500-foot separation area would be discriminatory. The amendment failed 3-2. It seems that also a proposal for allowing outside investment in Alaska marijuana businesses has been rejected by the Marijuana Control Board. It's the headline of this show. The amendment, which failed on a 3-2 vote, proposed outside investment up to 25%. Current draft regulations require businesses to be 100% Alaskan-owned. Board member Lauren Jones expressed concern that businesses would not be able to conduct proper background checks on outside investors. Board member Brandon Emmett argued that since marijuana businesses can't get loans under federal law, investment options were limited anyway. This is what you see going on, what they call inside politics. Because that's what it is. It's inside politicking. You guys passed the law in Ohio. Now the guys that make the rules get to have a say. This is another big story from today. Do we have time? Oh, we do have time. Read backs bill giving legal marijuana dealers access to U.S. banks. This, according to thehill.com. And we're talking about Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid. The top Democrat in the Senate is getting behind an effort to allow financial transactions for marijuana in states where the drug is legal. Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid, a Democrat from Nevada, this week signed on to a bill that would provide marijuana businesses with access to the banking system. It's called the Marijuana Business Access to Banking Act, introduced in July by Senator Jeff Merkley, a Democrat of Oregon, would give marijuana businesses in states where it's been legalized a place to store their money. However, it would not impact marijuana dealers in states where pot is still illegal. The federal government still prohibits the use of marijuana, though 23 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized it. The inconsistency in marijuana laws has created headaches for many pot dealers, none more notable than the banking issue. Currently, many banks do not accept money from legal marijuana dealers because of the threat that the federal government will still shut them down. The bill, which is being pushed by 8 Democrats and 1 Republican, would take away that barrier, giving legal marijuana businesses access to the banking system. But the legislation so far has seen no action in the Senate. It's nice to see that Mr. Reed is jumping on that boat. The Detroit dispensary saga continuing. They're trying to crack down on the booming pot industry. This, according to Freep.com at the Detroit Free Press. The Detroit City Council expecting to take up a second ordinance to regulate the city's booming medical marijuana industry Tuesday, although final approval of the measure may not come until January. The council's planning on Economic Development Committee on Thursday approved the latest version of ordinances designed to designate where dispensaries can locate. Without those regulations, more than 150 unlicensed and unregulated dispensaries have opened up across the city, raising deep concerns among some residents. The restrictions would require that dispensaries not be located within 1,000 feet of schools. See, it's twice the limit of Alaska. 1,000 feet away from schools. That's what you got to have anyways, according to federal law. 1,000 feet away from churches. And 1,000 feet away from caregiver centers and places like liquor stores. One major change the council committee approved would allow for variance of disturbance up to 20% to be determined by the city's Board of Zoning Appeals. That would allow, for example, the dispensary to be located within 800 feet of a church. If the BZA approved it, that variance would not apply to drug-free school zones, however, and dispensaries would have to be at least 1,000 feet from those zones. The pushback, it seems, coming from the legalized medical marijuana community or the legalized community is we're going to form an action committee and do this.
You're getting the full melt
by referendum.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. petpain.com. CBD relief for your pets.
It's the Full Melt radio show.
Radio show.
Okay, get ready, because here comes the great big announcement of epic proportion I told you would come at this break. So here's the thing. I decided to take a page from the old radio playbook. It seems that there's got to be a way to assist MI Legalize in gathering the necessary remaining signatures in order to get the legalization initiative on the ballot next year. So the rule in Michigan, if you're going to have a citizens initiative, a law created by voters, is that you've got to, in Michigan, collect 252,000 and some change signatures by within a 6-month period. So what does that mean? What that means is that, let's say January 1st, you decided that you were going to get your petition together and actually got the language approved, and by the 1st of January of any particular year, just pulling a number off the calendar, you got it approved by January 1st, and you started collecting signatures on January 1st. Now you have a 6-month period, 180 days, in which to collect the required 252,000 plus signatures. And they're going to be really requiring more signatures than that, because some of those signatures undoubtedly are not going to qualify. Somebody signed the form on the wrong county. Somebody signed the form, didn't put their address. Somebody signed the form and it didn't match their voter certification signature. Their voter registry card. Somebody signed the form and wasn't a registered voter. There are a number of things which will disqualify a signature on these petitions, and so some of them will not qualify. For that reason, you've got to obviously turn in at least 50% more, and maybe even more than that. You could still fail at that. You'd theoretically, given the number 252,000, really it needs to be almost 352,000, because 100,000 of them are likely to disqualify. Now, there's ways that you can wrangle that and manage it so that the way that they calculate that disqualification, because they don't verify every signature, it would take way too long. What they do is they take a random sampling, and I believe, if memory serves, it's 5%. So they're going to pull what equivalent, if you say you've got 300,000 signatures and they count the pages and you've got, 300,000 signatures on pages, they're all full. Assuming that you're there, they're not going to be that way. It's much more complex than this. I'm just trying to make it simple as I can to make you understand what's going on. So you get to 300,000 signatures. What they're going to do is they're going to pull 5% of them. They're going to pull the number of sheets randomly throughout the stack, just here and there, one sheet at a time. They're going to pull an equivalent of 5% of the 300,000. And then they're going to check each one of those signatures for verification to verify that it's a valid signature, that it's on the right page, that it meets all the standards for the petition. If you get, say, 7 out of 10 on a page, you're doing pretty good. 7 out of 10 qualify. That means you're going to have a 30%, or let's just for, ease of numbers, call it 33.33% discount rate. So they're going to discount those 300,000 signatures by 100,000. That's the 3 on each page that they're saying, if you extrapolate it across the sampling, don't qualify. So from that 5% sample, if, 7 of 10 of those 5% are valid signatures and 3 of 10 are not, they're going to have to take the 3 of 10 away from every page. So that's what you're left up with, is qualified signatures. So this is how the thing goes. Now, you could start collecting on January 1st. So let's say January 1st, you just collected a few signatures. And January 2nd, you only got 1. January 3rd through the 10th, you didn't get any. You got 6 months. You're sitting on your haunches on this. You're not well organized yet. You've raised hardly any funding. maybe the next couple of weeks you get a couple sheets in. Maybe the following month you get a few more sheets. It doesn't really pick up in January. It's going to pick up maybe in the summertime when it gets a little bit warmer. So maybe the first 3 or 4 months of your campaign, you really didn't gather very many signatures. Negligible when you start looking at the cavalcade that came in later. So what you might choose to do is, rather than count starting January 1st, after you examine your signatures and figure out, well, we need just some more. We just got to pad it up a little bit more in case they discount us too much and we don't make the ballot. That would be a tremendous failure, a huge waste of money and time. So what they might choose to do is make a big last push for what would be the end of the 6 months gathering if you did start counting from day one. Count all their signatures and see if they've got, say, 350,000 signatures, maybe a little bit more. Hopefully they got 400,000 signatures. That would be really cool to turn into 400K. And then if you assume that 3 in 10 signatures are going to go out the window, you still got enough to qualify. But let's say you get to December 20th, which is the end of the initial 6-month period. The end of the 180 days if you started counting from day one. What you can do is go in and examine those votes and say, wow, we're getting an average of, say, 5,000, 6,000 signatures a month right now. If we take the first month off, which we only got a few signatures in, it's less than 100. We can add next month on where we know we're going to get another 6,000 signatures or 10,000. So you're dropping the lower. So it's like taking the best grade, taking an exam or a quiz or some other exercise in a book in school and taking tests from it, different tests several times, and taking the best score of the testing results as your record. It's kind of the equivalent of doing that. So you're dropping January for, say, now December or December into January. Maybe you're dropping January for the following, for 6 months later. So maybe in this instance, we didn't start collecting in January. We started collecting in June. And so 6 months in would make it December 20th. So maybe in June, we didn't collect very many signatures. So maybe June was a really bang up because it was I'm just using examples. Maybe June was really bang up because it was the launch. So a bunch of people signed, but then July was meager. It was hot and sticky and, everybody was out recreating. It's the 4th of July. Nobody's collecting signatures. Maybe July you dump. You can't do that. If you're going to count June, you got to count July. You can't dump out July. You can only dump out one at that end for one at this end. It's got to be within the 6-month period. So all I'm saying is, in the long run, if we didn't collect very many signatures in June, they may opt to collect more signatures in December and leave June out of the equation. Drop those signatures. So my idea is, look, how can we get the biggest bang for the buck? How can we get a lot of promotion over this idea? Look, we don't have a lot of money for advertising, right? Yeah, we want to spend that after we get it on the ballot. We got to get it on the ballot first. How can we get it on the ballot? The answer is you. The answer is we need to motivate you. I know every single person listening to this program knows 10 friends or family members that would sign that petition. The question is, how do we motivate you to get those signatures on a form and get them turned in? And the answer is, from MI Legalize, we're going to pay people. We're going to pay people $1.50. Actually, I think they said $1.40. If we know you, we trust you, we're going to give you $1.40 for each signature right up front. And if you collect 100 a week, we'll give you $2 a signature. And if you get 1,000 by December 20th, we'll give you a $500 bonus. That's potentially $2,500 for 1,000 signatures. What a great incentive. It may not be enough. So I am announcing right now, we're going to hold a sign-a-thon. It's a marathon broadcast on this very program starting December 12th. And for 8 days, we'll be in 4 cities. We'll be in Flint for 2 days. We'll be in Detroit for 2 days. We'll be in Ann Arbor, Ypsi for 2 days, and in Lansing for 2 days. And we intend to collect a minimum of 5,000 signatures and have contests and challenges for you to do the same.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.